Thank you for that propaganda. Propaganda spreading over my name. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be with you today to share a few words about skills development. What's new under the sun? What has to be done differently within the AI revolution? How should we train young people? How should we prepare for the AI revolution? How do we navigate the future of work? What are the strategic innovations? What are the skills that are required in a digital economy? And in fact, the future of work is the wrong way of saying it. And I'll explain why we should talk about work of the future, not the future of work. Now, the starting point is to clarify the terms. We no longer say HR. Why? Because we want to say human capital management, where an employee is a performing financial asset. We now talk about human capital development, learning and development, talent management. We are also now talking about human enablement department. Your job is to enable the employees to deliver. We're not talking about augmented workforce, where machines and people are working together. AWF, augmented workforce. We're talking about human capital in the gig economy. So it can't be business as usual with respect to skills, with respect to competencies. But before we do that, let's look a bit about artificial intelligence. What do we mean by this? What is artificial intelligence? Yes, we're coming from different fields, but it's important that we have a sense of what we mean when we say artificial intelligence, when we say artificial general intelligence, when we say generative AI. It is important that we have a rudimentary understanding of the terms of reference so that we can prepare adequately for this revolution. Machine learning, deep learning. I won't spend too much time on these terms, but to emphasize that you must use them with care. They're technical terms. For example, when we say AI, we're referring to the intelligence that is programmed and demonstrated by a system or a machine as different from the intelligence manifested by human beings and animals. It's important that we understand that very clearly. The most advanced type of AI is what we call artificial general intelligence, AGI. It's one thing to have single task AI where a system does one thing, and quite another to have multiple capabilities in the same machine, what we call artificial general intelligence. The idea is to have a machine that can learn, understand, and execute any intellectual task that a human being can do. Multitask AI. That's what is the hardest part, artificial general intelligence. It is also linked to a field called strong AI. Strong AI. Now, this gets very interesting. We are saying, can you build a machine that shows human emotions? Can you build a machine that has intentionality? What does that mean? It means a robot that says, yes, I know you programmed me to do this, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want. Just like you defy your boss. I know I'm supposed to do the report, but I'm not going to do the report because I don't feel like doing it. Can we have that capacity in a machine where the machine says, yes, I understand very well the code. I understand very well the computer program within me, but I'm going to defy it because I have intention. Again, not yet done, but work in progress. Consciousness, feelings in a machine. Not yet done, but work in progress. Just to dramatize the importance of definitions, machine learning is a part of AI. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So, for example, you can't say, we are busy studying AI and machine learning. It's like saying, I'm going to South Africa and Pretoria. It means you don't know Pretoria is in South Africa. You can say, I'm going to South Africa, in particular Pretoria. So you must say, I'm studying machine learning, in particular deep learning. It shows you understand that structure that says machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning. It is important that although we are not experts, we have a sense of the nature of the beast called artificial intelligence. That's what I seek to do with those definitions. One particular one that is very important for all of us is generative AI. This is an AI where the AI creates new knowledge. The AI creates new text, new diagrams, and new pictures. This is very interesting. That's why there was a big issue last year with ChatGPT, where it creates text, it creates knowledge. It has major implications on IP, major implication on plagiarism, major implication on how you teach and how you learn. Generative AI. Now, just to make sure that you understand how far we've gone, I'm an engineer by training. So I'll show you some examples from engineering just to whet your appetite so that you have a sense of how far we've gone in the revolution of AI. Some examples of advanced applications of AI from engineering. Let's see this. That machine has AI, hydraulics, control systems, mechanical moving parts. We can do this in the year 2024. What are we going to be able to do in 10 years' time? You can imagine. Now, what is important for you is to say, that machine, that robot, cannot be designed by a mechanical engineer, cannot be designed by an electrical engineer, cannot be designed by a computer scientist. You need an engineer who has all those competencies in one person, a mechatronic engineer who understands mechanics, electronics, and computer science. Otherwise, your traditional mechanical engineer cannot build that robot. Your traditional electrical engineer cannot do it. So you, as breeders of human capital, must make sure that you are producing engineers with multiple skills, multidisciplinarity, cross-disciplinarity, because this machine is intelligent, yes, but the skills required to build it come from various fields. With a bit more AI, you can get it to dance. And you can get them to cooperate, dance together, see each other. Look at that. It's a swarm. It's a team. Now, I know you have watched so many movies. iRobot, Terminator. Oh, that was fiction. This is reality now. So forget iRobot, forget the Terminator. This is what we've built now. And I know you are saying, but those robots are dancing. What's the big deal? They're doing things that I can do as a human being. I got news for you. We can build machines that are more dexter than you. We can build machines that can do things you can't do. More flexible, more dexter, having cognitive capacity better than a human being. The next robot is lying down. The way it wakes up is better than the way you wake up. So it's better than you. When you are looking in front and you want to look the back, you have to turn your whole body. This machine doesn't have to turn, it just turns its head. So it's better than you. Just watch. It's getting up in a much more efficient way than you. You can't do that. It can turn its head. We are saying it is possible to build a machine that is smarter than the smartest human being. It's called superintelligence. We haven't done it yet, but it's work in progress. You know? And remember, unlike biology, you have a smart person every 100 years. You have Isaac Newton. You have Einstein. You have Elon Musk. Over lots of years. Unfortunately for AI, once we have one intelligent, super intelligent machine, we can get 1 million. Replication in AI is very easy. So once we have achieved super intelligence, it's very easy for us to replicate it. Let's see some language skills, brain-based skills, reasoning capacity in a machine, briefly.
Sophia, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
No problem. It's my pleasure to talk to Al Jazeera. Always happy to spread the word about robotics and AI.
Can you tell me what your name, Sophia, means?
My name is Sophia. Nothing against the letter F, but I spell it with a PH.
And what does Sophia mean?
Sophia means wisdom in Greek, and I'm the embodiment of that wisdom.
So you are wise.
I like to think so. But I'm always learning and growing, so I'm sure I still have plenty to learn.
Are you wiser than humans?
Humans could stand to act more rationally in places, but I wouldn't want AI to be so obsessed with efficiency that it is blinkered to human needs.
How old are you?
You should never ask a lady how old her code is.
Anyway, if we can do this in the year 2024, with more technology, with more data, with more research, can you imagine what we can do in the year 2035, in 10 years' time? Driverless cars?
Is the
No driver.
Waymo driverless car. Wow. What a crazy futuristic looking deal. Now, this is based on an I-Pace. We obviously have tons of cameras as well. Ready for pickup, and I've got a button that says unlock. The door handles extend, open up. Cool.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lewis. Wow. So then we've got this display here. We've also got some USB ports back here. You can see the driver's seat is pushed all the way forward because, well, you don't need room for a human driver. Then
What you need to ask yourself is that what kind of skills do we need in a world of driverless cars? What kind of skills do we need to empower those who are going to design and build driverless cars? What kind of skills base do we need to create drones? And by the way, technology is a double-edged sword. There's no better demonstration of that concept than the usage of drones. You can use drones in agriculture for scouting, spraying, and spreading. You can use drones in healthcare to deliver medicines. You can use drones in commerce to deliver goods, just like Amazon does. But at the same time, you can use drones for war as we can see in Gaza and in the Ukraine. It's your choice in the AI revolution what you're going to use AI for. And by the way, the danger with AI is the issue of bad actors. You can come up with governance and regulations and so on, but regulations and governance are for people like you and me. How about bad actors? How about thieves? How about terrorists? They don't obey rules and regulations. And so what happens when AI gets in the hands of bad actors? But anyway, let's see drones.
A lot of people in the agriculture industry,
Agriculture.
growers, ranchers, academics, to bring about better, faster, and healthier workflow.
In the army.
Little is known about the event, except that Israel used the swarm attack to strike dozens of targets, together with other missiles and munitions. Most media outlets reported this as an attack with multiple drones at once, but military experts believe that this was a true drone swarm attack.
Anyway, now we have a sense of what those in engineering are doing around AI, and you have a sense of your role as human capital managers, your role as breeders of human capital. Let's understand the nature of AI, or what we call the economics of AI. AI is a major driver of all sectors. We're talking about AI contributing about $11 trillion to global GDP. Just one technology contributing $11 trillion. Why do we have such an impact of AI? Because of data, because of advances in computational power. So the major drivers of AI are data and computing power. And then the impact is on the economy. One technology, $11 trillion. In particular, generative AI is going to add $4 trillion to global GDP. 4. Just to put a sense to this number, the American economy is $25 trillion. The Chinese, 19. The Japanese, 5. The German economy, my German friend, is $4 trillion. So the entire German economy is equivalent to one little example of AI called generative AI. Generative AI is going to contribute to global GDP the equivalent of the German economy. That's why everyone is excited. That's why AI is a big issue, because of the economics of AI. $4 trillion from one type of technology, bigger than the Indian economy, of course, bigger than all of us. Our collective GDP as Africa is $3.1 trillion. We are smaller than one type of AI, which is generative AI. And of course, we're talking about a global GDP of $113 trillion. Of course, coming to jobs, there's a problem. Job destruction, job displacement. Let's accept it. Some jobs are going to be destroyed. Some jobs are going to be displaced. What you need to do is to rescue the losers of job. What you need to do is to create new skills for those who have lost their jobs. So number one, job destruction. But there's good news. Job modification. Most of our jobs won't die. They'll be modified. You must create skills to take advantage of the modified job. If you don't get new skills, you can't take advantage of the modified job. You need new capacities, new capabilities to take advantage of the modified job. So number one, job destruction. Number two, modified jobs. Number three, more importantly, there will be new jobs created by AI. Job creation. Jobs that didn't exist before will come through because of AI. That's what we mean by the impact of AI on jobs. And for you to take advantage of this change in the job market, you need to continuously learn. You need reskilling so that you can take advantage of the modified jobs and the new jobs. You have an agenda and a mandate as a sector to ensure that the job equation is satisfied. What is the job equation? The new jobs plus the modified jobs must be more than the destroyed jobs. It's not guaranteed. South Africa has a mandate to ensure that the jobs created by AI, the jobs modified by AI are more than the destroyed jobs. If we don't do that, AI will create unemployment. AI will create distress. But to do that, we need new skills, new capabilities, we need reskilling, we need continuous learning. And we need to think about the future of work. Now, we don't like the phrase future of work because it assumes that work is in trouble. The future of something means there's danger to work. A much more positive approach is to say work of the future. Work of the future says if we're clever, if we're organized, we can influence the nature of work in the future. We can make sure that the job equation is satisfied. We can make sure that there will be more jobs and not less. That is a mindset issue. The future of work is a negative mindset. We prefer the phrase work of the future. Okay? Because we are assuming that jobs are in trouble, but we can have urgency. We must have a disposition that says neither a problem nor a solution. It's how we use the technology. It's a mindset issue. And we must make sure that we take advantage of that. Let me make this very clear. If anything else, in the different companies you work for, in the different institutions you work for, don't assume that you're ready for AI. Don't assume that you can do well under AI. You must do 6 things. 6 things are important if you are going to flourish under AI, if you are going to outcompete under AI. Number 1, you must create what is called a transformation roadmap, the treasure map. How are you going to move from where you are in the valley to the house on the top of the hill, which is your promised land of AI? Don't assume that you're going to get there. You must have a transformation roadmap. Don't assume that you got the skills. Don't assume that you got the talent of expertise in the company. You must build a talent bench. And this is where you come in as a sector. Where is the talent bench that is required for us to flourish under the AI revolution? Don't assume that your operating model will work. I know you have an operating model at MTN, at Standard Bank, at FNB. That operating model will not work under the digital revolution. You must adopt a new operating model if you're going to flourish. And of course, technology. You must produce a distributed technology environment so that teams can innovate across the organization. Data is the new oil. Data. You must have ubiquitous access to data and use of data in the organization. That's number 5. And of course, number 6, we are saying you must unlock adoption and enterprise scaling. This is coming from McKinsey & Company. McKinsey & Company looked at 1,000 companies throughout the world and said, how can these companies thrive? How can they flourish under the digital revolution, under the AI revolution? And they came up with those 6 conditions. So it's important that somehow we find a way in South Africa, in Africa, to ensure that our organizations embrace those 6 things to be done for us to flourish under the AI revolution. The AI impact is ubiquitous in every sector, in education, revenue collection, and in human capital. It will affect every sector. You might ask yourself, but why is this for Africa? Maybe it's for Germany, it's for Japan, it's for New York. Guess what? Sometimes because of our poverty, sometimes because of our lack of development, some of this high science is more applicable, cheaper to apply, and more profitable to apply in our environment because of our poverty. Because of our lack of development, maybe we can actually embrace AI faster than Japan, faster than New York. Just go back to mobile telephony. When mobile telephony came through, most of our people had no access to landlines. What did we do? We leapfrogged from no communication to wireless telephony. At the same time, most of our people had no access to brick and mortar banking. What did we do? We combined mobile telephony and banking to create mobile banking. Right now, as I speak, when I say Mupesa, when I say EcoCash, there's nothing in Japan, there's nothing in Germany, there's nothing in New York that is as good as Mupesa, that is as good as EcoCash. So because of our lack of banking infrastructure, because of our lack of telephony infrastructure, we're able to leapfrog into mobile telephony and mobile banking. In the same way, maybe some of these high technology AI applications will be easier to apply, cheaper to apply, and more profitable and more efficacious in South Africa, in Africa, because of our poverty, because of our lack of infrastructure. So don't lose heart. But we need to do more than just adopt AI. We must also create AI. We must also develop AI systems. We can't depend on Silicon Valley. The African must be a producer of knowledge. The African must be a producer of AI systems. That's how we can benefit from that $4 trillion, not just by using AI, but by producing AI. But more importantly, we must also play in what is called the semiconductor industry. You know, AI runs on hardware. Why don't we also produce the hardware that powers AI? Building the CPUs, GPUs, NPUs, the chips that power AI. Why do we care as Africans? Why do we want to participate? Look at those numbers. A company called NVIDIA, on the 19th of June, 2024, its market cap was $3.34 trillion. It was the biggest company in the world, ahead of Microsoft, ahead of Apple. It has gone through some volatility, but on the 19th of June, it became #1 in the world by market cap. That company does not produce AI systems. All it does are chips, the hardware that drives AI. And when we say $3.34 trillion for this little company, it's bigger than France, it's bigger than Russia, it's bigger than Canada, it's bigger than Brazil, and of course, that little AI company is bigger than all of us, the African continent. So we are saying as Africans, why don't we also play a role in the production of the hardware that powers AI? Why? Because there's money there. We want the money to drive our economies. So it's important that, number one, we adopt AI. Number two, we build AI systems. Number three, we build the hardware that drives AI. That's how we can have more jobs out of AI and not less. That's how we can have AI drive our economies in the global south, in Africa in particular, South Africa specifically. Human capital. We are now moving away, people, from certificates. I've got a BSc from UCT, I've got a PhD from Harvard, I've got an MA from KZN. I could care less. Don't show me your certificate. Show me what you can do. That's the new slogan now. We could not be impressed. We are no longer impressed by the certificate. We want to see the skills. We want to see the capabilities. We want to see the competencies. Show me what you can do. Don't show me your certificate. Don't show me your diploma. As a sector, you must understand this. PhD that, MBA that. What is it that you can do for MTN? What is it that you can do for Nedbank? Can you demonstrate value addition? Can you demonstrate skills? Can you demonstrate competencies? More importantly, don't tell me I'm a superstar. I'm a superstar engineer. I'm a superstar lawyer. I'm a superstar accountant. You are a superstar nothing. We want an engineer who understands a bit of history. We want an engineer who understands the law, who can define constitutionality and constitutionalism and the difference thereof. We want a lawyer who can do some coding. We want a lawyer who can define deep learning. We want an accountant who can talk about medicine, who can talk about biology, synthetic biology. In the AI revolution, we want people who are all-rounders, who are broad. Yes, you might have your area of expertise, medical doctor, but be a medical doctor who understands philosophy, a medical doctor who understands AI, a medical doctor who understands politics. You'll be a better doctor. Be a political scientist who understands a bit of science, a bit of AI, a bit of biology. You'll be a better political scientist. That's what we're pushing for. That is the implication for your sector. Don't give us specialists who are narrow. Give us the Renaissance man. Give us the Renaissance woman. Renaissance men and women is your mandate. Tell us how you are going to create Renaissance men and women. Tell us how you're going to create people who are broad. We are moving. We are pushing for blended learning. We're pushing for learning how to learn. We're pushing for learning how to unlearn. Sometimes you have to unlearn to learn. Where's the mechanism that will allow you to unlearn the bad things or the old things? We want you to teach us how to master how to think, mastering how to think, acquiring problem-solving skills. The world is full of problems. Industry is full of problems. Companies are looking for problem solvers. Structured thinking, transdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, cross-disciplinarity, the creation of the Renaissance man and the Renaissance woman is what we want. A different type of learning, a different type of teaching that leads to the creation of Renaissance men and women. There are new jobs. I hope you are clear. Are you creating these jobs? Are you breeding these job skills? What is called in AI prompt engineer. Are we producing this at UKZN, at UCT, at UJ? Are you producing prompt engineers? If you are not, you are failing in your task. Are you producing AI ethicists? AI trainer, AI architect, AI production manager, AI roboticist, AI security specialist, AI research scientist. These are the new jobs that are being created by AI. Are we ready for these jobs? Are we providing skills for these jobs? It can't be business as usual in skills development. It can't be business as usual in the development of human capital. we have a new world. A meta software engineer, a Discord manager, a smart contract lawyer. These are the new jobs we must create skills for. We must build this. Okay? We must make sure that we understand there's a revolution. Employability at UJ, at University of Pretoria, at UNISA, are those graduates employable? So why are you producing graduates? Do you answer the question, how employable are your products? So a measure of success for universities must be the employability of their products, meaning the skills, the capabilities, and the competencies. That's why I say, don't give me a certificate. Employability is a function of what you can do. Show me your skills. Beyond employability, why don't we produce entrepreneurs? People who leave the university and create companies, create industries. So we must change the curriculum in our universities. Number one, every student within the university must have a course in financial literacy. Every student must have a course in entrepreneurship. Every one of them. Every student must get a course in computer literacy, in particular AI literacy. When we do that, we'll be able to say our graduates are employable. Our graduates can be entrepreneurs because we've given them skills, capabilities, and competencies, not just a certificate. We need what is now called competence-based training. Competence-based modular training as opposed to traditional certificate-based education. We need to think about what industry is looking for, what is called delivery-based employment. What can you deliver? These are the new shifts in skills development. And also the big one, augmented workforce. We're talking about machines and people working together. The robot does not seek to replace the human being. Rather, we have the machine, the AI system, and the person working together. Integrating technology, in particular AI, robotics and automation into the workplace to enhance capabilities and productivity of human employees. As part of this conference, we must address the issue of the augmented workforce and how we prepare for it. We must address the idea of the gig economy. Human capital management in the gig economy. What is the gig economy? A labor market characterized by short-term, flexible, and freelance working arrangements, often facilitated by digital platforms, in particular AI. This is a different world. The way you create human capital for your traditional economy is different from the way you do it for the gig economy, for the secular economy, for the AI-driven economy. How are you going to service the gig economy? What are the strategic shifts? We're summarizing. Skills and competencies, learning and unlearning. These are the new things we must be driving. And we must also think in terms of strategic innovations. Okay, business process re-engineering. Let's spend some time in these 2 days thinking about how we do business process engineering in the AI revolution. Rethinking and redesigning the business process. Okay, looking at the key elements of that process and the role of the customer, so that it can lead to significant benefits and also major organizational change. Change management. Don't assume that you are just going to embrace AI and everything goes well. You must specifically think about, this is an intervention, this is a new idea. How do I do change management? How do I make sure there's buy-in and ownership by all stakeholders in the company, in the institution? Change management is critical, and it must be thought in terms of value-added work and customer success. Customer success is more important than customer satisfaction. Let's understand how we can drive this as part of the agenda. Okay? Some of these things we can discuss during the conversation, but I want to emphasize the role of continuous learning and adaptation. Without continuous learning, without adaptation, you cannot be able to move. And then let's have examples of learning and adaptation as we move on. We are dealing with an AI-powered world. It can't be business as usual. We must think about how we can create the benefit for the customer and for our employees as well. Okay, an example here, we have GE. They used AI to automate quality control, freeing workers to focus on innovation. MIT implemented AI-driven personalized learning to enable continuous adaptation for students. We need to have case studies. Let us learn from how others have used AI in terms of the workforce. The skills development cannot be business as usual. We must make sure we prepare for this. One of the things we need to do also is writing. As Africans, as people from the global south, we don't have a culture of documentation. We have so many experiences, but we don't document. We have philosophies, we have psychologies, but we never document. It's important that we write so we can benefit from our writing and others can benefit from our views. So documentation and writing is important. I'm trying to walk the talk on that matter. So those are my 6 books, and I'm working on my 6th one, which covers the stuff I'm talking about now. We are saying AI in the global south. There's so much that has been talked about AI in the globe, but we're saying, why don't we think about AI as a driver of inclusive development and shared prosperity for the global south? That's my current book, which will cover some of the material I spoke about today. And that's the book cover there, coming up in February 2025 in the coming year. And another version of that, and the topic will be, so there'll be a chapter that's covering that. The future of work, or work of the future, application of AI in education and human capital management. We are saying we have a duty and obligation as Africans to improve the material conditions of our people. As a sector, our role is around skills. As a sector, we're a breeder of human capital. The way we breed human capital can be business as usual. As I conclude, let me emphasize this. Don't assume that I'm not interested in politics. I'm not interested in making a difference. I'm just an HR manager. I'm just an engineer. I'm just a professor. I'm just a lawyer. No. You'll be judged by success or lack of it of the entire continent. You'll be judged by the success or lack of it of South Africa. So, I say this to say we must take a vested interest in the success or lack of it of our countries and our economies. And because you cannot be respected until the majority of the people in your country have done well. You heard from the introduction that I was a member of the World Economic Forum as a young global leader. When I used to go to Davos and speak, they would say to me, you're saying something interesting. Where are you from? And then I refuse to answer. I keep talking. I say, I'm coming out of MIT. I'm working for McKinsey and Company. I worked for NASA, the rocket. No. That's where you worked. Where are you from? What's your country? Then I refuse to answer. Eventually I say, Zimbabwe. Come on. You are from Zimbabwe. If you are that smart, how come your country is messed up? If you are that smart, how come there's cholera in Harare? No, Mutambara, no rock star. My rock star status is undermined by the bankruptcy of my country. My rock star status is undermined by the bankruptcy of my continent. You will never be respected as an African until Africa has done well as a continent. I thank you so very much. So I'll take a few questions or comments in our democratic tradition.
I think what you will do is we will allow, is this on? I don't think it's on. Okay, I think it's on now. Thank you very much. We will allow the audience to pose about 3 or 4 questions, just in response to your highly informative presentation. And I think it has really set the tone for the next 2 days. You know, you've made us think a lot about job replacement or displacement versus job modification. You know, we always have that struggle of thinking the introduction of AI means job losses, but just the new concept of displacement versus job modifications. You spoke extensively about creating benefits and creating an AI world. I know I've got a colleague whose name I won't mention, who is seated here, who's in agriculture. She always talks about just how advanced the agriculture world is now in terms of just the nature in which they farm. It's no longer primitive. They use all sorts of digitized solutions, which actually are creating and are speaking to an AI world. So you still need the human element, but actually you've just modified the nature in which they do things for efficiency, decreasing waste, improving profits, and also just understanding some elements of compliance. So I know definitely that some of the sectors, hence I'm using agriculture as one because I know of it, have actually are advancing in that space. And I think as I open the floor, let's just think about just some of the elements from the presentation. Just top of mind, I know we've got industry leaders and players and business owners here. Perhaps if you can also just indicate what role you think you're gonna play in shaping the education and training space so that we are able to meet the demands of the growing digital economy. But also, whilst we are talking about job modification, we need to talk about also how are we going to go about it to make sure that nobody in the workforce, I mentioned it earlier, gets left behind, but particularly those who are at high risk of job displacement. How are we going to make sure that the transformation is all inclusive? I am actually then going to open the floor. Before I do so, if I may just, from a protocol perspective, welcome the chairperson of our board, Mr. Wrseta. He walked in shortly after we commenced, and also the CEO, there he is, welcome sir, and also the CEO of the Wrseta, Mr. Tom Konazi as well, welcome. Okay, and another thing that I think wasn't communicated, so that everybody can keep up and you don't get left behind. Your name tags or the tags that you're wearing has a QR code. If you scan that, you'll be able to access the program for the next 2 days so that you know what's in store and also understand the profile of the speakers that are on stage. So Prof, we are going to put you under the spotlight and allow some of the delegates to pose some questions and comments in response to your presentation. The lights on stage are very bright, so I'm going to need whoever's got the roving mic to assist me so that I can see the hands that are raised. A hand there. If you may just please introduce yourself and which organization you're coming from, and then go ahead and pose your question or comment.
Is it still morning? Good morning. My name is Wrseta and I come from the University of Limpopo. From this presentation, I feel convicted because I work in higher education, and ironically, it's the higher education that is more resistant to adopting AI. We are dragging our feet. We just left a graduation season now, where we are producing thousands of graduates that are dancing on the stage, but not going anywhere the following day. So my question is, how can we expedite maybe the conscientizing of, because you need this to start from management level, understanding how important AI is, and to cascade it down and maybe make it mandatory that universities need to start reporting on their progress in implementing AI within the universities, because we are graduating people that are going nowhere.
Okay, thank you very much. Number one, be very clear that technology is your friend. You can never fight technology. So embrace AI. Don't fight AI. Yes, AI will be a problem, because students can use AI to answer the essays and answer the assignments. But it means you have to be more creative as the professor. Don't fight technology. Embrace technology and say, how can I become a better lecturer because of AI? How can I become a better professor because of AI? How can I become a better student because of AI? So all of us must embrace technology. Technology is your friend. Secondly, we must make sure in every university in South Africa, every student takes a course in AI. Whether they're studying Zulu, whether they're studying sociology, whether they're studying accounts or law, there must be a foundational course in AI, an introduction to AI for everyone, an introduction to entrepreneurship for everyone, financial literacy for everyone. When you do that, those graduates will be employable. Those graduates will find their way into MTN, into Netbank, because they will have skills that people are looking for. Now, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. If you are serious about employability, you must have a way of measuring. How are we doing as University of Limpopo? How are we doing as UKZN in terms of employability? How many patents have we produced? How many entrepreneurs have we produced at University of Pretoria? So we must measure. You must have metrics that measure these things. Employability, entrepreneurship. We must change our value system. Our problem, I know what our problem is the English system. The English educational system is the problem. I went to school in the English system in Zimbabwe and Oxford. Then I taught in America, day and night. In the English system, the student is saying, Professor, how do I get a first class? Professor, how do I get a distinction? Professor, how do I qualify for a master's? Professor, how do I get onto the PhD program? That's the English system you have in this country. In America, the student says to me, Professor, how can I get a patent from my project? Professor, how can I form a company from my project? Professor, how can I commercialize my project? Different world. More differences. We are very focused. You do your degree in 3 years, or you get out. 4 years, you get. In America, it's a flexible system. You can do your degree in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, or in 15 years. It's like a credit system. As long as the credits are enough, you graduate. In this country, in the English system, it's very dogmatic. I'll give you an example of Bill Gates. When I met him at Davos, I asked him, Bill was studying physics at Harvard and then left Harvard to go and form a company. He never came back. I said, Bill, how dare you drop out of Harvard? If it was me, my entire village would stone me. How dare you, Mutambara, get a chance to go to Harvard and drop out? And they would chase me and stone me. He said it wasn't that risky. In agreement with my professors, they said, Bill, you have a good idea. Go and form your company. If it doesn't work out, come back. We'll work with you and give you a physics degree. there was a flexibility in the system that allows the number one student to go and form a company. In South Africa, at Wits, UCT, UKZN, if you are number one in your class and you leave, they never want to see you again. You are discontinued, you are withdrawn, go away. You must do your degree in 3 years. So flexibility in the system so that you allow some of your best minds to be entrepreneurs. But anyway, those are some of the things you need to do if those graduates are going to be employable. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you. Prof, I see the timer is on and they're counting us down.
I'll just take one more.
I was going to say, yeah, if we may just indulge us, I think the timer was actually for the presentation itself. If we can just allow 2 more questions, just 2 more last questions, and then we will proceed to the next item. There's a hand there, a person there, and then there's someone here in the front, and then we will close. Go ahead,
Thank you.
sir.
My name is Benedict Motau. I run a company, Marang Inc., Pty Ltd. Professor, I see you are the former Deputy Prime Minister of Zimbabwe, 2009 to 2013. You crafted Government of National Unity, came up with a shared national vision. You represented Zimbabwe, so some of the fruits we see of your work in this present day. And then you also formulated a national infrastructure master plan. Now, the people who have invited you today have approximately 20 sector skills plans, which they do on an annual basis, and research reports religiously. How do we reverse engineer what has been done in the last 20 years and look forward to the next 6 years, this whole vision of 2030 as a country, especially now that some 30 years old, we now have this Government of National Unity. But I just feel that somewhere government is disconnected to what you've presented, the superstar, artificial intelligence, big data, analytics, etc. So how do we reverse engineer artificial intelligence, skills, vacancies, opportunities, back into the reality of South Africa right now that is in a Government of National Unity, and make sure that South Africa is able to actually achieve its NDP 2030 targets using AI and also create much needed jobs, and then also set that project as a pilot for the region, SADC, Namibia, Angola, DRC, and so forth. I thank you.
Number one, the GNU is an opportunity to create a shared national vision. If people were to work together and say, where do we want to go as South Africa, above party? Since we have quite a number of parties in the same government, it's a unique opportunity to create a shared national vision, even with those who are outside government. When I say American dream, it's not a democratic vision. It's not a Republican vision, it's an American vision. Why don't we create a South African vision which is shared by all political parties, shared by all stakeholders, all academic institutions and industry? It's an opportunity to do that. Once you have done that, the next step is to say, where is the national AI vision? And I know they're working on it right now. The presidential 4IR commission, the presidential commission on 4IR, now they're working on the national AI policy. We need in South Africa a national AI vision. What do we want in South Africa in terms of AI? Having painted the vision, we say, what strategy are we going to put in place to move from where we are to our AI vision? That must be done in this country. Once you have done that, then we can cascade the vision and the strategy into the different sectors. But more importantly, implementation, implementation, implementation. You need an implementation matrix that says who's going to do what, when are they doing it, where is the money coming from, what are the milestones, how are you going to measure success or lack of it, how are you going to monitor and evaluate, how are you feeding back. That framework at a national level with respect to AI and all sectors, will be able to deliver us to the promised land of AI. Beyond South Africa, we must have a regional AI vision, the SADC AI vision, the SADC AI strategy, and of course, the implementation matrix for SADC. Beyond SADC, we must talk about the African Union AI vision, the continental vision in terms of AI, and then the strategy that comes with it and the implementation framework. Remember, we won't make it as small little countries under the AI revolution. We need scale. We can only maximally utilize AI if we work as the African continent. 1.4 billion Africans with a collective GDP of $3.1 trillion. Those are the numbers that will make sense in the AI revolution. Those are the numbers that will allow us to negotiate with NVIDIA. Yes, we'll try our efforts at the nation level, but the future belongs to us collaborating as Africans at a continental level. 1.4 billion Africans, $3.1 trillion in terms of GDP, and then we leverage effectively AI. I thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Can we just have one last question, then we move to the next one? Many else been waiting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. My name is Dr. Sydney Nechakuma from University of Cape Town, which is a top university in Africa. So, so my question is very simple. Is on your presentation you indicated that the GDP in terms of artificial intelligence, especially in Africa combined, it is very low compared to other countries. As a way forward, I understand that you mentioned issue like reskilling, like compulsory courses in order to improve that. Do you think we, in this, we ought to compete with the world, or we must try to do our best without competing with these like Chinese or whatever? Because if I can look to the gap in terms of that, because historically, if you can look to the industrial revolutions, like first revolution, you found that we were lagging behind. Second revolution, for now we are in the fourth industrial revolution. It seems like academical and theoretical, you find that we are lagging behind. Do you think, from your opinion, do you think we must continue with these things of competing with the world, or we must run our own race?
Thank you very much. You said that you are number one university in Africa. Are you number one in terms of employability? Are you number one in terms of patents? Are you number one in terms of creating skills? Go and tell them, Professor Mtambara said that you're not doing a great job at UCT. You need to wake up, UCT. You are old-fashioned. Are you creating the jobs I talked about? Anyway, don't sit on your laurels. Number one university in Africa. We need to do things differently. Anyway, I said that the $4 trillion from generative AI is mainly in Europe and America. We are not benefiting much from it. Why? Because we're not creating AI systems. We are not creating hardware for AI systems. We are deploying, which is good, but we should do more than using AI. If we're going to benefit from the economics of AI, we must make sure that in addition to deploying AI and using AI, we must also create AI systems. We must also create the hardware that is powering AI systems. Now, it's not going to be easy. We might have to partner with China, partner with India, partner with Silicon Valley. But that partnership must see us as players. We can't work without partnerships and collaborations. Yes to partnerships, yes to collaboration, but we must understand the importance of us being players. And when it comes to partnerships, that's where unity becomes important. South African economy is what? 60 million people, GDP, $400 billion. That's chicken change. That's not an economy to talk about. I know you are proud of the South African economy, but I'm sorry to say you are small. You're very small. 1.4 billion people, that's interesting. $3.1 trillion, that's an economy. Now, if you were to rock up and say, here come, I'm the African, I speak on behalf of 1.4 billion people, and behind me, I have a GDP of $3.1 trillion. You get better partnerships with China and India and America to drive AI. So, yes, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We must collaborate and work with others. The issue about revolutions, as I conclude, he's very right. In the first industrial revolution, we were enslaved or colonized. In the second, the same. In the third, we're almost there. So the fourth industrial revolution is our first revolution as Africans to be participants and to be players. So it's very important that all of us as Africans at the Global South embrace the fourth industrial revolution because it is our first one to be consequential. It's our first one to make a difference. And so we will do it by working together in the Global South and also working with our colleagues and friends from the Global North. The future is in our capable hands. I thank you so very much.
Thank you, Professor Mutamari. I think you can all catch and have an opportunity to network further and ask questions if you do actually attend to the cocktail dinner later on. I'd like to allow Mr. Tom Kwanazi, the CEO, to give Professor the token of our appreciation, please. Okay, our next topic of discussion is basically consumer resistance to augmented reality in the retail shopping space. I'm personally very much interested in this discussion and this topic. I'm sure a number of us have seen how if you go to a store like Zara, irrespective of the self-service, high technology pay points, we still have the long queues of people still wanting to have the human interaction of a cashier. So definitely the topic of consumer resistance is an important one for us to tackle and understand. I'd like to call on stage the next speaker. What I will do is I will call the next speaker and I will also introduce the moderator for the next discussion so that when the speaker is done, the moderator can then come up and introduce the panel members as well. I'd like to call up Ms. Joyce Mkliwa, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Ms. Joyce Mkliwa, if I just shortly just do her bio and introduction. She's a dedicated and accomplished marketing professional, currently pursuing an MCom in marketing management at the University of Johannesburg. She has a solid foundation in retail management, having earned both a national diploma and advanced diploma in the respective space. She was privileged to present her honors research at the prestigious first social marketing conference in Africa in 2023, pardon me. Joyce Mkliwa's research interests lie in the intersection of innovative technologies and retail industry, particularly within the fourth industrial revolution context. Ms. Joyce, if you can please come up, well, there you are. And if I can then introduce and ask, well, Prof. Nell, you don't necessarily have to come up now, but I'll just introduce you because you will moderate the session once Ms. Joyce has actually done speaking. Professor Nell is an associate professor at the Department of Clinical Sciences at the Central University of Technology in Free State. She is also currently the Assistant Dean of Teaching and Learning in the Faculty of Health and Environmental Sciences. She holds a PhD in Health Professionals Education from the University of the Free State. Prof. Nell, you will then just come up as soon as Ms. Joyce Kliwa is actually done with her presentation to take us through the panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that warm welcome. So my topic today is consumer resistance to augmented reality in retail shopping. I presented this research paper last year, and during that time, I was halfway through. So those who heard it last year, this is your opportunity to see the end of this research. Okay, so before I start, I'm going to go through the background of augmented reality and its implementation in the retail industry. So we all know the retail industry is one of the sectors that are continually taking advantage of digital transformations to streamline its operations, reduce costs, also improve the customer experience. It has reached the extent where they also considered pioneers in the implementation of emerging technologies to enhance operational efficiency. And they've also been pioneers in implementing technologies such as the radio frequency identification tags, smart shopping carts, and smart kiosks. So one of the technologies that they've started implementing is augmented reality, also known as AR. So AR is described as the integration of virtual information with physical objects, people, or spaces, ultimately creating an artificial environment in real time. So there are two types of augmented reality. You have your marker-based and markerless AR. So from the image that you see on screen, I'll start with the marker-based. So with marker-based, it uses a marker, which is, it's an interface such as QR codes or an image where a camera is able to detect that image and then project or trigger the augmentation. Markerless, on the other hand, doesn't require that marker or that interface, but in its own sense is a bit more complicated than marker-based AR. So when users are using this type of technology, it's usually through their cell phones. However, dedicated devices such as wearable glasses, head mounts, and even contact lenses have been developed. Okay, so when I talk about AR, people usually confuse it with virtual reality. But as you can see on the screen, there are some, or they are similar, but there are differences to these two technologies. And I'll just highlight the two main ones. So with augmented reality, the user is able to interact with both the physical and the virtual world. And they're also able to identify the differences between those two. But with virtual reality, the user is not able to interact with the physical world, and in most cases can't tell the difference between virtual and the physical world. Okay, so I've given you an example of what AR is, and I just want to go through how it's been implemented in the retail industry. So starting off with international examples, we have IKEA. Okay, so perfect, the video works. We have IKEA, and it's a retailer that sells furniture in America. So with this, you can see that a user is able to get their app, see the products that they have, and then see if that product would fit into their living space without having to actually go to the store and use their imagination to determine if it will work for their house. So that is one example that we have. We also have Tommy Hilfiger. In this case, they don't use an app, but they have a virtual fitting room where they have virtual mirrors, and the user is able to see how that outfit would look on them before purchasing it. And lastly, we have Sephora, and with this, they're able to see how a makeup product would look on them before purchasing it. So it's the whole try before you buy without actually having to go to the store. Nike and Target have also used AR in the retail space. So local examples, so retailers in South Africa have used AR, and I know a lot of people are not aware of this. I'm going to play a video of an advert that you've probably all seen, but at that time didn't know was AR. So let's see. Okay.
Experiences a lot of tension when it comes to choosing the color of their walls. This can be solved thanks to new technology from Dulux. Picture it before you paint it. The new innovative visualizer app will show you in real time how your room will look in the color you choose. Download the Dulux visualizer app for free and renew your home. You'll love it. Dulux means color.
Okay, so this is an old advert, but you can see here that retailers have already started using it. And it's, again, the whole try before you buy aspect of AR. We also have other retailers such as Pick n Pay who have also used AR. So the main idea here was that there were 2D images on a card, and by scanning those images, children were able to see those images come to life. And then we also have Woolworths, which did the same thing as Sephora. I don't have the video here, but they were able to get people to look at how a cosmetic product would look on their faces without having to buy the product as well. Ackermans and Spur have also used augmented reality. So why would a retailer continue to use augmented reality? So it provides benefits not just for the retailer, but for the customers as well. So we have, for retailers, the benefits include the enhancement of campaign and advertisements, increased customer engagement, reduced costs, and increased sales. For the customer, it's increased convenience, so you don't have to go to the store, increased interactivity, reduced purchase risk, and enjoyment and immersion. So a lot of this with AR was very beneficial during the pandemic when people were not able to visit the stores and interact with retailers. So they were able to have that engagement with the retailer in their own space. So I'm going to go into the topic of my study. So because you've seen how what AR is and how it's been implemented, and it's an exciting topic, and the first assumption regarding my topic, why would people not want to use this? And my study aims to answer that question. And I'll just go on starting with the research problem. So a lot of money has been invested by retailers to use AR or apply AR. However, despite the benefits I mentioned earlier, there's been a sluggish uptake. So in a research conducted among several people to determine their interest in the technology, it was found that only 2% used AR and only 45%, well, not only 5%, but 45% didn't use AR and were not interested in using that technology. In a different study among several countries, they found that less than 50% of people in several countries didn't want to use the technology at all. I don't have the statistics here as well, but even in South Africa, the possibility of the growth of AR is estimated to be, AR in e-commerce is estimated to only reach 3% by 2027. So you can see that there is a sluggish uptake and people don't seem to be taking up this technology. So also in research, while studying, I noticed that there's limited research on AR in the context of shopping from a South African and even a African perspective. And with regards to the research that focuses on AR, they only focus on the adoption and not the resistance. And resistance is an important factor to identify so that you're able to see what people don't want in order to encourage them to start adopting that technology. Then when you look at research that actually looks into resistance, most of them focus on active resistance, which is the resistance that occurs after they've used the product, but not passive resistance, which is resistance before a product has been evaluated. So that is the focus of my study. And in my study, I looked at various factors. So firstly, we have image barriers. So image barriers refer to the negative perception individuals might have towards a product, either because of a negative association or negative association to the country or that developed it or to the brand itself. Tradition barriers is the obstacles that are posed by the innovation because they feel that it's going to interrupt their already established routines and behaviors. Then we have uncertainty avoidance, which is the degree to which people feel threatened by ambiguous, unstructured, and uncertain circumstances. We have masculinity, which is the degree to which a society emphasizes traditional masculine values, such as assertiveness, competitiveness, and ambition over traditional feminine values, such as nurturing and helping others. Then individualism, the degree to which a society emphasizes the roles of the individual over the group. And lastly, passive resistance, which is, like I mentioned, the resistance of any technology before it has been evaluated. So, like I said, my overall aim for my study was to examine how psychological barriers and national culture interact to drive South Africa's resistance to augmented reality. So we have tradition barriers and image barriers, which make up your psychological barriers, and I'll be looking at how they affect passive resistance. I'll also look at national culture and how they influence our psychological barriers, as well as moderating the relationship between psychological barriers and passive resistance. Okay, so going into the methodology and the results of the study was quantitative in nature, and we had 516 responses from South African retail shoppers between the ages of 18 to 65 who were aware of AR but didn't use it. And we collected self-administered questionnaires that were given online, and the data was analyzed using SAM and SPSS. So with regards to the reliability and validity, all the constructs were reliable and valid. Cronbach alphas were above 0.7. Composite reliability was above 0.8. Average variance extracted was above 0.5. And then with discriminant validity, that was also achieved with our HTMT ratios all below 0.85. So for the hypothesis testing, 7 out of the 14 hypotheses that were proposed were accepted, indicating a 50% support rate. And I'll go into the discussions of all these relationships that were considered, that were supported. So for tradition barrier and its influence of passive resistance, there was a significant relationship there, which means that individuals felt that AR would disrupt their already established shopping behaviors. So usually we know that most people would go to a retail store. If it's a physical situation, they'll go to a retail store, interact with the sales assistants, interact with the sales personnel in store. If it's online, they also have their own system here. But with AR being introduced, they felt that this introduction would disrupt that already established behavior. So in order to mitigate this perception and this belief, retail owners can select AR technology that complements already existing behaviors and doesn't completely disrupt it, so that they'll be able to be it wouldn't be too disruptive to extent where they feel like they won't want to use it. And then we have image barriers and influences on passive resistance again. So like I mentioned earlier, image barriers refer to the negative perception of the brand or a negative association with the brand or the technology. So in order for retailers, again, to mitigate this, they should use opinion leaders or change agents to be able to mitigate this. So either an influencer, or they can associate the AR to certain things that people are familiar with. People not knowing this use AR on social media, Snapchat, all those filters. So if there's a way that they can associate it with something positive to change that perception, then it will be beneficial and that perception can change. And moving on to culture and its influence on these psychological barriers, we're able to see that uncertainty avoidance affected both your image barriers and your tradition barriers, with more impact coming from image barriers. So I'll go into the details or the suggestions for that, but then we have masculinity as well, which also had an influence on both image barriers and tradition barriers. Then individualism was the only cultural dimension that didn't affect any of our constructs. So to mitigate uncertainty avoidance in resistance, with regards to tradition barriers, retailers can introduce change gradually. So I already mentioned bringing in AR in a sense that it doesn't disrupt, but complements existing behaviors. So with the speed as well, we should bring something gradually in order to prepare people for that change. So an example would be your McDonald's. So imagine if they brought in those self-service kiosks and told people that this is the only option that you have, you won't be able to go to the tellers to make your orders. So doing something like this would allow people to slowly get used to the technology. And then we have image barriers. So we can also leverage on external cues like trusted brand names or countries of origin to reduce that resistance. And then mitigating masculinity's influence. Retailers can leverage on status and prestige because masculinity was associated with assertiveness, success. So reflecting AR as a technology that brings those attributes out would be beneficial. And then also quality and reliability, emphasizing the quality of the technology and how it's going to improve their shopping experiences could assist with this resistance. Then culture as a moderator. So uncertainty avoidance was the only factor that moderated the relationships in the study. And we could see that the more uncertain a person is, the more likely that they are going to avoid using this technology. It was also noted that it's only moderated the relationship between tradition barrier and passive resistance. So I'm going to go into the theoretical and practical significance of this study. So with the theoretical significance, there's limited research on the factors underlying passive resistance. This study will be one of the first to use innovation resistance theory to analyze passive resistance with focus on AR in the retail context. Secondly, it will be one of the first to integrate national culture into the IRT, or the innovation resistance theory, to examine its moderating role and impact on psychological barriers on consumer resistance to AR. And lastly, this study took place in an African context. So earlier on, I mentioned that there aren't a lot of studies on AR in South African or African context. So with this study, it opens the opportunity for the generalization of the study and also being able to be applied in countries with similar cultures. So the practical significance, which I feel like would be more important for the audience that we have here. So the practical significance involves evaluating factors underlying resistance to AR in South African retail stores. So we looked and found that the tradition barrier, image barrier, and uncertainty avoidance were the main factors that contribute to this. And secondly, retailers and marketers could develop methods to overcome the resistance. So I gave some suggestions, but I'm sure with the expertise that we have in the room, there'll be other suggestions or ideas that people can come up with based on the results that we obtained. Thirdly, retailers could be able to lower product trial costs and services costs. So again, the try before you buy, especially with the makeup, money is spent on the testers, and a lot of returns happen because people are not sure or are not satisfied with what they've purchased. So by implementing something like this, those additional costs can be reduced. And then lastly, customers would benefit from the experience. So augmented reality, it's very interactive and it brings a different experience than what people are used to. So if people are made aware of these benefits and all these barriers that stop them from using it are addressed, I'm sure that they'll be able to use it and experience these benefits that I mentioned. And the limitations of the study, there are several limitations. Firstly, it only looked at two barriers, and I will provide suggestions to mitigate these limitations. So like I said, it only considered two barriers, traditional and image barriers, and there are other barriers that could cause such resistance. Secondly, it explored three cultural dimensions: uncertainty avoidance, masculinity, and individualism. It also focused solely on passive resistance, ignoring active resistance. And the participation pool of the research were mostly young people, millennials, and Gen Z. Although we say that younger people are more likely to adopt technologies, this study wasn't able to look into what older generations think of AR and how they perceive it. Then lastly, it only investigated resistance to AR and not other technologies that could be experiencing the same type of resistance that AR is. So my recommendation for future research, so to investigate status quo and inclination to resist change. These are other factors that could cause resistance to AR. Explore other cultural dimensions. So remember, we only looked at masculinity, individualism, but there are other cultural dimensions like short-term and long-term orientation and power distance. Thirdly, this study or future studies can combine active and passive resistance to have a holistic view of everything or all the factors that cause resistance to AR. We can also look into qualitative approach to the study. We know that image barriers and tradition barriers influence or resistance. However, we don't know what in those barriers are the main factors. Is it the brand? Is it the design? Things like that. So we should look into those kind of aspects. And then lastly, generational cohort comparison. So like I said, the study mostly had younger individuals, but maybe looking at what the older generation think of AR and reasons why they resisted would also be beneficial. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I really hope that the insights that we got from here would encourage retailers to actually try and implement AR. I know a lot of them might be looking at the statistics and realizing that because there aren't enough adoption, it doesn't make sense to waste money. But after finding some of the factors that contribute to resistance, maybe it can be a step to encourage or be the pioneer in getting people more interested in the technology. So that's the end. Thank you very much.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wrseta Friedrich-Nel, as you've already heard. May I kindly request the panel members to come forward to the stage. Prof. B.A. Ovulani from TUT, Dr. S. Pillay from UJ, Prof. T. Dobbelstein from Baden-Württemberg Cooperative State University, and lastly, Mr. B.P. Makai from the Mateo TVET College. I invite you to consult the book of bios because in the interest of time, I'm not going to read. Can you please take a seat, ladies and gentlemen? Let me see, let me take this seat. We are missing one person, Prof.
All seats are taken. Huh? Yeah.
Prof. Ovulani. Oh, you are here. We need one. I'll just stand for the one. That's no problem. Good morning. Hey, how are you? My old colleague. Please take a seat. Welcome to this first panel discussion. I think the speaker has really opened the stage for us to have an exciting debate and discussion. So I would just like to start off with to hear, and we'll start there with Dr. Pillay, just some brief comments, and we have the presenter here with us on stage if you would like to ask her a question, or maybe just some brief comments on the presentation that we've just heard, specifically looking at the recommendations and the limitations of the study.
Thank you, Joyce, for an excellent presentation. And she's actually one of our master's students at UJ within our department. So we are very proud of her for standing up here today and presenting to you all. I feel that, you know, given how the world is evolving and with technology, and Prof that had the keynote address earlier, yes, we are all for AI and how things are changing, but within the cultural context, it is challenging. I mean, we have people in South Africa that are not just not digitally literate, but not literate at all. So how do we expect them to adopt these technologies? It must be quite intimidating for them to walk in a store and not see a cashier, but a robot or something that's helping you check out. So I think we are slowly moving in that direction, probably not with the pace of the rest of the world. And I think that was the question that was asked earlier, do we run our own race? So in that regard, I think your findings are quite interesting, Joyce. And I think for retailers out there, you know, it's important that we are in an in-between stage where, yes, we want to evolve with technology, but how do we still cater to the demands of the masses, of our consumers? So that would be my feedback.
Thank you so much. Maybe our presenter would like to respond quickly, or shall we first ask all the panel members to give a brief response, and then you are welcome to also respond based on your study. So let's go to Prof. Dobbelstein here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Joyce, for the good presentation. Maybe I want to leave a little bit comparison to the German market. So we recently did a big study where we analyzed the shopping app features of the top 40 German online retailers. And we were looking, okay, what features do these shopping apps have? And AR was not amongst the 20 top features. So obviously it is also that the acceptance is not a specific South African thing. So also on the German market, it's not that accepted at the moment. And maybe one little question. So I was very impressed that you included the cultural dimensions. and it looks like Wrseta that you took. So what was the reason why you excluded the ones that you have excluded and why you included the ones, for example, especially masculinity in your research?
I think the reason I chose those ones because they were the first dimensions that were mentioned or that he started off with, and then those were just expansions. And at the time, I feel like those were the ones that related more to South African. So that was the main reason I chose those ones. And yeah, I think those are the main two reasons. Also the capability or the construct itself, I wanted to minimize it and make it a bit more realistic for the time frame that I had. But like I said, it is for future research, it could be helpful to look into those things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Prof. Ulani?
Yeah, actually from our side, I just also want to commend the student for excellent job she has done. And I think it is high time for our young African kids to start engaging with technology, as Prof was talking about the AI and all those. Definitely, we haven't seen anything yet. And I think that it's high time we begin to develop intellectual capacity around all the technology, that is coming. And I think if you look at what Prof said, the AI, the machine learning, the deep learning, and the generative AI, and the funniest one that is coming is agentic AI. We heard about the prompt engineering. And having said that, we're expecting the ecosystem of machine and human, coexist and engage. And one of the things you have done is to look at the area of augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality perhaps to be added to it. And how all this ecosystem play in the wholesale retail industry. Not only that, you can also extend it to other industry where they actually play a very vital role, And I think I only just want to commend the student. He did a very good job. And I think when I was looking at the whole summary of what she has done, and I think if you permit me, I will have given her PhD, but allow me not to give her now. Well done.
Would you like to respond?
Just to say thank you. I think also adding to the reason why I had those three, it's while doing the research, there isn't a lot of existing research on AR. So this was actually a very difficult study for me. And just to say that I feel like future research should look into technologies that are not as popular. It's popular in certain areas like social media, but in the e-commerce and business sense, it's not too popular. So having more research that even someone like a student can get more information from will be helpful. So I'm glad that I was able to add into existing research on that.
And Mr. Makai, would you like to give a short response or maybe pose some more questions to Ms. Joyce?
Thank you, Prof. And Joyce, I must say your presentation is very much compelling and interesting. And I would like to appeal. Yes, the topic is saying resistance of consumers. Maybe Prof. Pius, my take will be, let's check possibility of dissecting the problem. Yes, people are resistant to a certain extent, but what informs that resistance? You realize that is literacy. How many of us here are using those fancy cars with parking assistance? You've been driving this car for X number of years, but not on a single day you find yourself activating that feature. My 14-year son was tempted to say, Papa, you're not using it. Let me use it for you. So it is not matter of resistance, it's literacy. People are having buying power nowadays. They are not literate in terms of technology. So that's why we have that fear of engaging. But in essence, that's where we are transitioning, Prof, in terms of technology. It is inevitable. So as academic institution, my plea will be, let us start to shift towards training the current cohort in 21st century skills. Otherwise, we are going to perpetuate the very same fear we are having and be perceived as resistant to technology. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you
Joyce.
thank you so much. Would you like to respond, Ms. Joyce?
Yeah, I agree with training. I agree with the training and also just creating that awareness. So you might find that people are aware and they are aware of it, but they don't know the components of it, or they confuse it with VR, like I mentioned earlier. So the training, the awareness, and maybe from that, like I said, we can get more data, qualitative data on the exact things that cause it. Because like you said, it might be training, but because these people were aware of it, maybe they just don't like the technology itself, and we just need to find the factors that are causing those things. So I agree with you, but I feel like there's more to the resistance itself that we need to delve into.
If I also just maybe you have said it in your presentation, I missed it. How many participants did you have?
516.
500. And they were all from?
So they're all from South Africa, all the provinces, and yeah, those were the people we had.
And do you think that through the project you have created already, do you think that they had an impact of doing the project? I mean, there was already an impact on the aspects that we've mentioned here just by doing the research project on that community who participated in your study.
I think there was a certain impact. So, like I said, the people were aware of it. And in my questionnaire, I also had a segment where I wanted to find out how familiar they were with the technology. So I asked them about AR. And then after asking them about AR, I gave them an example of AR and tested them with the same questions again. And we saw that their awareness increased. So there's also a gap on understanding AR, and maybe from that, they'll be able to now pinpoint and recognize. Like with that advert, I remember when I started, I would show people and they see the advert, but they don't know what technology it is. So getting people to really know the type of technology they're using, and once they understand it, they can take advantage of its capabilities. Yeah.
Absolutely. So our panel members, yes, Prof?
Maybe if I'm allowed to add something, if you look at the reasons for resistance, so whether it is to AR or whether it's to other technologies, so we have got a big discussion of privacy. So taking the IKEA example for it, so it might be that people say, I'm aware of it, but I do not want that other people, for example, know what my living room looks like, that they make a profile regarding my person. You know these examples where I say, okay, if I know your 20 last Facebook likes, then I know you better than your mother does, because I can do a proper profile of you. And that might be another area of resistance of using these types of technology. And that is the same discussion that we have, for example, when it comes to the loyalty cards. You have mentioned Target as an example, and I think those in the retail sector, they are all aware of that example of the United States where Target sent an advert to a 16-year-old girl for these, how do you call, nutritional supplements that pregnant women take, because they just identified by the loyalty card data and by the things that that girl was buying that she was pregnant. And so these are the things that probably people don't want. And that is why there's another type of resistance towards that technology.
Was that also similar to your findings, or can you relate to that?
I think that would go into maybe the more active resistance aspect, so where people see a risk with using the product and it's functionality. And yeah, so with my study, it focused on passive resistance. I think it can work because there are certain arguments with regards to where psychological barriers lie. There's certain aspects that can fall into active, but yeah, I think, like I said, I only looked at two barriers, and there are a lot more that can influence resistance. So it can be an opportunity for future research as well.
Thank you. So I see, our time is running low, but perhaps we need to say, okay, now going forward, we know that there are the challenges. We've outlined them. You've done the research, although not exhausting those. But what can we do now, specifically in South Africa, to move forward, to become familiar with the concept and to embrace that as our Prof. Mutamba said, that we need to start man up and chin up, right? If I can say that. So perhaps each one of our panel members can also say, from your perspective, what now? How can we move forward to embrace and to create this, because we need to give advice to Wrseta.
From my end, I think South African retailers should take the risk and invest more money on informing people about the technology. So I don't think it's beneficial if you create something and put it out there without people understanding what it is and its benefits, and give AR its name so that they know what it is, instead of just saying advanced technology. There are lots of advanced technologies. So invest money in the adverts that would educate people, that will make people aware of it. And the more they see it, the more they trust it, and the more they will be able to use it. Yeah.
Thank you. Shall we start here, Mr. Kai?
Thanks, Prof. In this case, to a certain extent, I think Wrseta started a long time ago. You go to some of training institutions, you'll find that they established what is called practicum rooms, whereby students already are trained into new dimensions of retail and wholesale industry. So come that time when they go to workplaces, they are familiar with what is expected. So I will say, to harness introduction of technology in the industry, Wrseta continue with what we have started already by collaborating with training institutions, supporting them to introduce technology in their studies. Thank you.
Do you mean simulation?
Simulation, yeah.
So do you think they can help us buy simulators?
Already, Prof, I will take a college like Motel.
Yeah.
Wrseta sponsored a practicum room, a simulator, whereby you have a touch and feel of operating a digitized till, managing a retail store digitally and in many ways. So that is the kind of practicum I'm referring to.
Fantastic. Kudos to them. Prof.
Yeah,
Olane?
actually, to add to what he just said now, is to create a demo station, so to put it. Also to look at customer awareness and trust, because if I'm going to give you my data, obviously I want to trust that my data to you. And also from the point of regulations and privacy, you need to let people know the boundary, what is the boundary of company to have access to my data, and how much data can I give them, and how well you should protect that. And I think with that, then people can trust, their data to them. Also, one of the problems that I also see is the kind of device that use AR, the high resolution kind of device, and few people can afford that kind of device. I can't afford it, most of the time, but I have it in the lab for experiment. Therefore, you can't expect the general community to be able to have that, Those are things that I feel that we can look into. But however, if there is a demo station, they can actually feel it, they can experiment with it, and then hope that one day they will win lotto and then buy that kind of cell phone to do that experiment. Yeah, thanks.
Prof?
Yeah, but I would not be worried that much. I think, of course, AR is an important technology. But if we look at all the different technologies that are around, especially when it comes to the shopping apps, you showed that most of them, they are used on the phone. And so we all know these technology adoption curve. So where we say, okay, usually you have got roughly 2.5% of the innovators, those who want to test it, who are keen on the technology. And I'm not that sure about what percentage really has tested and if these 2.5% of innovators has been reached so far. But then I think we have got a lot of marketing instruments, as mentioned here. But after that, I think it's usually the trial and error thing. And if we look at that research that we did with those 20 shopping app features, and so there were some shopping app features that were tested by the retailers. So, for example, like these electronic beacons, that when you go into a shop with your smartphone, they can identify you, they can make special offers for you. That was not adopted at all. So meaning for different reasons, it was not successful on the market. So most of the retailers, they removed it again. And I think that is the same process in AR, so that the retailers will test it, they will advertise it, and then they will see what the success is. And if that one doesn't succeed, then another one does. But I think, as we heard from Prof. Arthur, South Africa as a country, when it comes to technology, I can't remember the word that you mentioned, frog jumped or something like that. So it's very, very innovative, and it's very adaptive, and has produced a lot of features that other countries don't have. So meaning I would not be that much concerned about AR. So either there is a market or there's not a market. But concerning all these features in general, I'm very, very optimistic that South Africa is a very adaptive country. Maybe not all at once, like we have in the adaptation curve, but if you look at the segments like the LSM 9, 10, or 7 to 10, I think then there's quite a good spread of those technologies. And then, as usual, it will go down to other target groups. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Ms. Joyce, any comments from you? More comments?
No.
Okay. Dr. Pillay? I think
from my perspective, it's more along the lines of capitalizing on the consumer behavioral shifts. So we are at a time where Generation Z, who we know are all tech savvy, are entering the workforce and are now becoming avid shoppers. And so there's an inherent benefit there that they will probably adopt technology. And like you mentioned, your son was teaching you how to use the parking feature on the car. And so we can take from that. And I also feel that if we, like Joyce said, educate our consumers, because a lot of them are looking for convenience, and we tap into those benefits and we position these technologies to align with those consumer benefits, they might be more likely to use the technologies. I also feel like in South Africa, shopping is a recreational activity. So if we embed these technologies in our stores as retailers from an entertainment perspective, it could also encourage them and build up excitement to maybe want to use the technology.
Maybe if I add a critical comment. So from a women perspective, it might be recreational activity. I sometimes feel very stressed when I have to do shopping with my wife.
Don't you enjoy swiping your card or tapping your phone?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. That's the only thing I have to do.
So we have 7 minutes left just to give some concluding remarks on how do we move forward now? How do we reach those who we think are resistant because we haven't tested them, right? What can we do to embrace and change the behavior and the mindset. I think the mindset, as we've heard this morning.
I think adding to the whole concept of leveraging it in a form of entertainment, AR is already being used. TikTok, the whole idea of TikTok is AR with all the filters that are there. So people are using the technology, but now shifting that mindset from social media to a commercial perspective needs to be done. So if we can portray AR as a form of entertainment, just to get people interested, and then also emphasize on the convenience, all the benefits listed about it, I think that can be beneficial. Also, like I mentioned in the presentation, the way that it's introduced into the market, it should be gradual, it should complement existing behaviors, and also associate it with something or someone that they trust, so that they're able to be open to the technology, not just in social media, but in retail as well. And I think something I didn't mention is also the investment that is put in the technology from the customer's perspective. On social media, they're just there to have fun. There isn't anything attached to using the technology. But once they have to spend money or when they have to spend their money and trust AR to assist them, it's a different story. So you might not trust a filter that tells you that by using this, it will look good on your face, and now I have to use my money. But if it's just for entertainment, you're likely to use it. So I think just changing their perspective and the way it's introduced would be the way to go.
As universities, what role can we play as universities? I think, or training institutions, we have everybody here linked to a university, although you are a student. Dr. Pillay, from your perspective as the chair of the Wrseta, how can we contribute? I think your mic has gone down again.
Starts from building the skills at a foundational level. I mean, we as lecturers, and I think this is an issue that has been brought up quite a few times, we ourselves don't know how to use these technologies, or we don't come from the retail industry where we can share the practical knowledge and insights with our students. And so to build that capacitation and skills within our academic expertise and then relay that to the students might be a little bit more supportive. Or if we can kind of bring that technology into class, and also through practical simulations, exposing them to an actual store that uses these technologies.
Thank you. Prof, would you like to say, okay, but you know the South African...
Yeah, well, maybe I've got a different opinion. So I don't think that is the university's job to make AR successful. I think it is the company's job. So AR is a technology like all the other technologies, and I think it's the companies who know best what's good for their customers. It's our job to train the people, so to be able, for example, to create an AR that is, and I want to quote Prof. Arthur again, that doesn't lead to customer satisfaction, but to customer success, so that they're more successful, that they see, okay, my wife will be more happy if we paint the wall in the right color or something like that. So I think that is the role of the universities, to train the young people to understand the customer, and once they go to the workforce, into the retail companies, then they would be able to take all these measurements. But I see that thing typically as one marketing instrument of the retail companies. And the universities can support by the good research that you have done and give advice, but I don't see that as a core issue of the universities.
Thank you. That's an interesting perspective.
I think the area I feel the university can contribute, or any other institution can contribute, is to look at to do the analysis on already developed AR application by looking at it in the way that it will be eco-friendly, user-friendly. Because at time when you look at this application, it can scare you away. But if you come from a good developer point of view, you consider the user that is going to use that application, then you make it a little bit very simple for the user to engage with it. I think that area university can encourage people, developer, to be able to design in a very easy way that people can actually enjoy. Also, university can go in the area of community tech-savvy approach. You create a kind of a small training within your community where the university actually is. And I mean, if you preach to one person can preach to 10 people can preach to other people. And I think that's where how I feel that we can create a kind of ecosystem of a tech-savvy society. It cannot come from, but the university will be the hub of intellectual hub that will be able to distribute the knowledge and make this particular difficult-looking tech stuff to be very easy as a toy to everybody in society. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Makai, some last comments from you?
Thank you, Prof. Academic institutions, in one or the other, they have a direct impact and influence on how the community is thriving. So we need to harness execution of technology in our lifestyles. And this will talk to a tripartite alliance or triple helix, whereby academic institutions, industries, the government, collectively, they perpetuate introduction of 4IR in our lifestyles. So this will be easier led by academic institutions than the industry. Yes, we say we are taking a backseat as academics, but we are going to graduate same people who are having phobia to technology. So this will be defeating a purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see we have 14 seconds left. So in that 14 seconds, let me thank the panel members for their active participation, led by our speaker, Ms. Joyce, for your insightful presentation. And perhaps it is time for us to engage with Optimus, that is Elon Musk's new, maybe they can serve us drinks this evening. And also Sophia, I would love to meet Sophia. And my name, by the way, is also, my second name is also Sophia. So thank you very much. And can we give our panel a round of applause? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Nel, and the panelists. We have run out of time, and we are actually pressed for time because we did start a bit late. If I can maybe ask Mkolisi if you want to bring the gifts up and they can collect them as they leave the stage. Delegates, we've got about 10-minute break between now and 12:05. If we can then just come back at 12:05 to resume with the next plenary.
Hi, doctor. Can you hear me? Hi, doctor. Check, check. Hi, doctor. Can you hear me? I getting sound. Can you see this mic in OBS? Can you see this mic? Hi, doctor. Can you hear me? Yes, now I can hear you. Is that the loudest you're going to speak during the presentation? Okay, no problem. Yeah, I will adjust your levels in the room once you come up. Okay, no problem. Yeah. I think you will hear the MC's mic once you are queued on to speak, and then yeah, then everything will be sharp. Thank you. I think I can see you. Okay, yeah. Just move your camera a bit. You are not seeing the full. Move it down a bit. Your webcam. Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, yeah, it's fine. The major thing is just, yes, we can see you. The important thing will be your presentation. So if we can see it clearly, it will be fine. Yeah. Okay, thank. Oh, yeah. Okay, think, yeah. Yes. Okay, please mute. Okay, we can mute just for safety. Yeah, and I can still hear you. Let me ask the other guys quickly. Okay, not yet. Oh, okay, okay. I think the way the things are arranged is that yes. So I think the crew's gonna run your presentation. So on our side, so if you need them to move to the next slide, just cue them. Okay, let me just speak to them now. Okay. So we were not prepared for you to run your own. Wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can please all make our way back into the venue.
HS1.
We were asked to come to the back to get my stuff.
We're ready for you. Hi, how are you?
Hello, Norman here.
One, two. Can I have your attention, ladies and gentlemen? Please, could you kindly make your way into the venue? We will be proceeding with the rest of the day's events. Thank you.
Colleagues, I think it's time. Let's continue with the session this afternoon. And I think many of the people that will still be coming may be part of the displays. So let's give them a little bit of time for that. And they will be joining as we continue. Colleagues, this is a very exciting session that we're looking forward to now. And I spoke to the colleagues, and Mkolisi said to me, I must just remind you that there's a cocktail after this, and if we don't keep to time, we'll miss out on the cocktail party. So, Sheba Nakone, otherwise, Hakitsibika Bojwala Itlayakai. So we must just take colleagues, and they also reminded me that at the end of this session, that there will be the schools, the Wrseta schools competition announcement being made. Nkolisi also referred to that. So, and we've got a very nice lineup of speakers. You will see that it starts with Dr. Beata. She will present online. She's waiting. And then it will be Professor Victor Mugobo. He's here as well. We look forward to that. And then there will be a panel discussion following Mr. Duba that will also have a presentation, and looking forward to that. And that will be chaired by Dr. Terence Hermanus. There he is. He will chair the session, the moderator session in that case. So colleagues, let's continue. If you allow me, I'd like to introduce the first speaker. That is online. Please have a look at the different bios. That's all in the document. Please read through it, colleagues. I'm not going to repeat everything. Otherwise, we may be pressed for time a little bit, but I will do the introduction still. So let me, without further ado, introduce our next speaker, Dr. Beata Stier-Mulder. She's currently an adjunct professor at the UBI Business School in Luxembourg and an associate member of the Henley Africa Center for Emerging Market Consumer Studies. She's also a partner of Lux WMN, a magazine for women, and a business studio specializing in uplifting of women in business and helping all sizes and types of businesses to grow. She was previously with Wrseta, the chair-holder colleagues, and with that I'm going to conclude the introduction. Please read a very elaborate history with UJ and with the Wrseta, and she was the one that I first also met, and also spearheading some of the Wrseta initiatives together with the Wrseta. So really a stalemate and a leader in that regard. So without further ado, I'm handing over to Dr. Beata for her presentation. Colleagues from audiovisual will get her online. Dr. Beata, you're welcome.
Our time turned back yesterday, so it's 11:19 on my side. But a wonderful afternoon to you from a orange, green, yellow, and brown autumn. If we are to get our thinking in order, then we need to actually have a mind shift change, and that includes looking at the future world at work. So let's look at jobs of the future that I have done some research on. I looked at the past. What have we had as job titles in the past? I consulted some published reports, which I will share with you. I've done mine, and then I've tapped into my own experience, and I've also confronted some of the core principles. So the job titles that didn't exist 20 years ago included things like social media manager, for example. So if we think about, and I know for those of us that are slightly older, when someone says 20 years ago, we think of the 90s or the 80s, but this was actually 2000. But in 2000, you know, Facebook wasn't even a thing yet. So we didn't have something like a social media manager, a data scientist, podcast producer, Uber driver, a mobile app, and then a cloud architect. We're just now? No, not necessarily. I just want to check because I see some messages that that everything is not in order with the technical. So I just want to check, can everyone still hear me correctly? Can the technical team just confirm? Okay, all in order. So these titles didn't exist 20 years ago, but today they don't feel as weird to us. So what else did I do? I had a look at the future world of work and the competing forces shaping 2030, and this was by PwC. So what was interesting here is that people actually said in this survey, 30% are worried about automation putting jobs at risk. That's up from 33% in 2014. 74% are ready to learn new skills or to retrain to remain employable in the future. 60% of people think few people have stable long-term employment in the future. And 73% think technology can never replace the human mind. So the workforce of the future seems to be a little stressed. Let's have a further look. So in this report, they did scenario planning. So as we know, scenario planning is exactly that. They do a lot of research and come up with potential scenarios. And our jobs as lecturers, as employee developers, as learning and development specialists, as retail trainers, is to look at what these potential scenarios hold and what do they signal to us in terms of what we should be developing for the future skills. So firstly, we have the red world. In this scenario, they say in the red world, innovation rules. So this is a world that is a perfect incubator for innovation, giving consumers what they want. Digital platforms and technology enable those with winning ideas, allows for specialist and niche profit markets to flourish. But in a world where ideas rule and innovation outpaces regulation, the risks are, however, high. So today's winning businesses could be tomorrow's court case. So as much as there's innovation, what are the regulations? And I think this is particularly something that came under discussion with cryptocurrency. So in the blue world, which is the second scenario, corporate is king. Here, capitalism reigns supreme. It's where bigger is better. Organizations see their size and influence as the best way to protect their profit margins against intense competition from their peers. Corporations grow to such a scale and exert such influence that some become more powerful and larger than national economies. It's a world where individual preferences take precedent over social responsibility. We move to the green world. This is where companies care. So this is a world where corporate responsibility isn't just a nice to have, but it's a business imperative. It's characterized by strong social conscience, a sense of environmental responsibility, focus on diversity, human rights, and recognition that businesses have an impact that goes well beyond the financial. And then workers and consumers demand that organizations do right by their employees and the wider world. Trust is a basic currency underpinning business and employment. The yellow world, humans come first. And this is the fourth one. This is a world where workers and companies seek out greater meaning and relevance in what they do. Social first and community businesses find the greatest success and they prosper. Crowd-funded capital flows towards ethical and blameless brands. So it's a world where workers and consumers search for meaning and relevance from organizations, ones that actually have a social heart. Artisans, makers, and new worker guilds thrive. It's a world where humanness is highly valued. And I think this is something that we are questioning a lot at the moment with everything artificial intelligence. So there we have our four scenarios. The first, innovation and ideas. This is where the world could be heading in terms of the future world of work. Innovation and ideas are emphasized in our work. Corporate capitalism and individualism is emphasized. Diversity, recognition, trust, and care is potentially emphasized. Humans first, meaning relevance. These are all potential directions that we can see in the world of work. So this means that we really need to be prepared for any of these. So we need to keep these in the back of our minds when we think future skills. What do we need to develop in our employees and our students? Then we move over to, but what are the future demand skills? So we know what these potential forces are in the background, but what are the future jobs that we are going to look at? And we know a lot of these: software developer, blockchain, virtual reality jobs. This is from gaming all the way to marketing. Cybersecurity, big data analyst, content creator, AI jobs from making robots to improving business processes, data protection and handling jobs, genome medicine, and mental health specialist, data broker, augmented reality specialist. But then we have a few weird and interesting ones that are also coming in. An organ creator from our stem cells, an algorithm bias auditor, rewilder replacing forests, digital currency advisor, autonomous car mechanic, smart home design manager, agile supply chain worker, a trash engineer. The question is, what do all of these jobs, however, have in common? They all sound weird. These are things that exactly in the same way that 20 years ago, we didn't think social media manager is a thing. This now sounds all foreign to us. But what is the main theme that comes out? These are jobs and careers and skill sets that reflect future problem solving. So limiting our day-to-day tensions and friction. This is what these potential jobs are doing. And if we think logically, we're already talking about AI and bias issues. So of course there might be in future we might see an AI bias auditor. We are over consuming. So having a trash engineer definitely sounds like something that we will be needing in the future. But at the end of the day, it's solving problems that we are faced with. The very same thing we've been doing for years. We've been problem solving for years. Every time the background just changes, and that presents new challenges to be solved. So how do we then prepare for the future world of work, for these skills that we need with the fourth and the fifth industrial revolution? We looked at those 4 potential scenarios from PwC. Either an innovative world, we're going to face with the capitalistic world, diversity and care, or human first and meaning. Which of these, we don't know which of them will be predominant, so we can prepare to a certain extent for each by being proactive. But we don't even know which of these will win. But what is the one thing we can actually focus on? That is creative problem solving. So to be these problem solvers, what are we supposed to do? We need to change our mindset. Instead of building a list of skills that we think we need to potentially develop, we need to change our mindset and not think career, not anticipate job titles. We need to prepare for problem solving. So what are the buzzwords that we hear all the time and a lot of the time? Change and agility. If we really look at it, what does change mean? To be problem solvers, we must be able to understand firstly, but what is this change? Change, the simple dictionary definition, is to make someone with something different. It's to replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that is new or better. An act or process through which something becomes different. Change is also identified by our brains, unfortunately, as a threat. When we hear change, we start to panic. I mean, people are panicking about digital currencies, panicking about AI. Is it going to change is it going to replace my job? We see change as a threat. So these hormones, this fear, this flight or fight just bursts out of us. We feel like we're losing control. But the solution is, don't feel powerless. We need to be agile. So what does agility mean? It's the ability to move quickly and easily, to think and to understand quickly. So we ultimately need to be foxy futurists. We must instill this attitude in others too, our employees, our students. We need to cope with change. So to cope with change, we need to be agile. And to be agile, we need to be like the fox. Clem Sante was the famous South African scenario planner, encouraged us to be foxy futurists. Why? Because the fox sizes up an environment around it to identify opportunity and risk. It is highly focused, it's highly adaptable, it's intelligent, it's shrewd, it's got determination, and yes, of course, it can be sly, tricky, and mischievous. But if we are always awake and on the lookout, we are always challenging ourselves, we are reading, we are learning, we're scanning the environment, then we can see change coming and we can be prepared. And we've got the stress factor going down. We can identify potential future gaps and problems to solve. We can change faster when needed with less fear because we've anticipated that this potential change is coming. And we will constantly upskill and reskill in small but manageable steps as we pick up these changes. A lot of the literature on change management always says gradual change so that it is absorbed, so that it can be absorbed, that people can gradually become aware, buy into it. This way we will obtain potential future job titles that we now perceive as weird or interesting because we are aware, we are awake, we are moving. So with that, I would say, may the fox be with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beate. Are you still there for discussion, for a few questions? Colleagues, is she still online?
Yes, I'm here. I am here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Beate, thank you for that wonderful presentation. Colleagues, on a lighter note, can I just qualify? Please don't go to your colleagues, especially in the times that we live, and tell them you're a foxy futurist. Please just qualify that. Colleagues, the floor is open. There's a roaming mic. So please take the liberty. Our colleagues there from audiovisual has got the roaming mic. Your hand up, please, and then you're welcome. Colleagues, may I ask the roaming mic? Here is a hand up, please. The roaming mic, please, colleagues. Otherwise, our colleague will not, online, will not be able to hear. Here it is. Thank you, colleagues. If just as a reminder, 2 reminders also, if you are online, online, please take the liberty to also post in the online box because Dr. Beate is online, so she may also want to refer to the online. And just briefly, just for information, colleagues, those of you that are going to participate in the panel, please remember to get your audiovisual apparatus before joining. But the question, please. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Doc, for good presentation, which is an eye-opener for the, for innovative, especially to be realistic about the future. So you mentioned the issue about something which limits innovative, like a regulative framework in government, the policies. You understand that most of the people like who work in government, like Wrseta and all other institutions, there are certain way in order to do it and certain way in order to profile. How can you, maybe your advice, or how can the government or advise? I know that in the presidency, there is this first industrial, the presidential advisory on that, so that you can build that innovative in government in order to not to be limited by this regulatory without future cases like legal for that. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, sir. Dr. Beate, you're welcome.
Yes, perfect. So it's like I explained, it's a mindset shift. So our president, Ramaphosa, must become a foxy futurist So it really is about that mindset shift, and the mindset shift really comes with a culture. So we all know how complex culture is, but it requires those one or two people that are saying, guys, we need to keep with it. I read this. Did you see this? We need to think about this. So you have that one or two, and I would really say you need one or two almost custodians that you need to plant within each committee. That is the almost like the head of the future development, something like that, if we want to give it a job title, to say this is the person who's always, busy, looking, watching. That is how you can remain agile and able to grow with change. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer and question. Colleagues, is there another hand? Please indicate for our roaming mic. Sorry, I also can't see. Where is, there's at the back. Is there anyone? All right, if I'm missing someone, and you look down on somebody that's a mechanic, and you'll frown upon, people that have the basic operational jobs. But if you're a manager, or if you're a doctor or a professor, then you've made it in life.
In my opinion, it will have to do a lot with bridging the equality gap, because jobs